Okay, hi everybody, again.
Hey, how are you? How are you there?
I'm good. Tonight we're going to be talking about self-fulfilling prophecies.
That sounds good.
So, there's 3 parts. I'm going to give you an idea about what they are and why they're important.
Okay.
I'm going to read a quick chapter from a book that also has some good information.
Okay.
Then we're going to go to my lovely chart,
Very lovely chart.
and we're going to kind of see how it works in real life. So, once we're all done with that, then we will be taking questions, comments, and etc. from the audience.
Sounds good.
So, a self-fulfilling prophecy. This is the idea that if you believe something to happen, that it will. Now, self-fulfilling prophecies tend to feel negative, like the idea of, I'm nervous, I'm anxious, I have an interview. The idea of that if you go into an interview feeling that way, you're not going to be doing it as well as you may be. So, there is a misconception, and that is predictions about your future are subjected to forces outside of yourself or beyond your control. But technically, the truth is, just believing a future event will happen can cause it to happen if it depends on human behavior. So that would be your actions. So, I'm pulling out one of my favorite books. This is the one I pulled Learned Helplessness from the last time. It's called You Are Not So Smart. So of course I wanted to challenge that. But it's not to be rude or mean. It just identifies the differences of what thoughts we have about different subjects and how they actually relate. So, it's not very long, and I will try to make it as fun as possible for you guys. So, the self-fulfilling prophecy is a concept that goes far back into the history of storytelling and narrative fiction, in just about all human cultures. But it isn't fiction. Research shows that you are highly susceptible to this phenomenon because you are always trying to predict the behavior of others. The future is the result of actions, and actions are the result of behavior, and behavior is the result of prediction. This is called the Thomas theorem. Sociologist W.I. Thomas in 1928 stated, "If men define situations as real, they are real in their consequences." Thomas noticed when people are trying to predict future events, they make a lot of assumptions about the present. If assumptions are powerful enough, the resulting actions will lead to the predicted future. The easiest example of this is the rumor of a shortage. So if you believe that there will be a shortage of toothpaste, you'll go and try to buy some before the stores runs out, just like everyone else. Sure enough, the shortage occurs. Everyone's out there buying it. So Robert K. Merton, another sociologist, coined the term self-fulfilling prophecy in 1968. By his estimation, the initial phase is always a false interpretation of an ongoing situation. The behavior that follows assumes the situation is real. And when people act as if something is real, it can sometimes make it so. What was once false becomes true, and in hindsight, it actually seems if it always was. So self-fulfilling prophecies gain their power from social definition of reality. And most of your life is defined socially, not logically. A perception depending on logic, like the number of albums sold by Foghat, can be measured. The perception of how good the band Foghat is, and whether or not they should play the halftime show at the Super Bowl, is socially determined. If the perceptions of others translate into actions, policies, and beliefs, the perceptions become reality simply because so much of life is ruled by our behavior. Is bottled water better for you than tap water? Is a Snuggie better than a regular blanket? Are leisure suits the ultimate fashion statement? Yes. Is Inception like the best movie ever made? Without scientific analysis, ideas like these can go from true to false to maybe and back again because they are socially defined. They depend on subjective feelings and on facilitating a consensus of one's beliefs. The social hive mind and the moment creates a reality all on its own that is separate from the reality of things like lunar eclipses, the radius of a circle. You swim in a sea of social ideas and mental constructs shared by a culture by both ancient and popular. So with these ideas become beliefs, then those beliefs become actions. The logical and measurable side of reality changes to match. Psychologists Claude Steele and Joshua Aronson conducted a study in 1995 where they had white and black Americans take the graduate record examinations. The GRE is a standardized test used by many colleges to determine whether or not to accept graduate students. It is a comprehensive and difficult test and the source of much anxiety every year in the halls of academia. So, Steele and Aronson told half their subjects they were testing for intelligence, which they hypothesized would add an extra level of stress the other half wouldn't feel. When they got back the results, the white students performed about the same whether or not they were told it was a test of how smart you were. Black students, though, primed by the stereotype threat, performed worse in the group, who believed that the test revealed their true intelligence. Now, according to Steele and Aronson, the social stigma of being an African American messed with their minds. Attempting to fight their stereotype, they had unwelcome thoughts walking around and making noise in their brains while they solved word problems and figured fractions. The white students, free from these fears, had more mind space in which to work. This same sort of experiment has been repeated with gender, nationality, and all sorts of other conditions. And psychologists call it a stereotype threat. When you fear you will confirm a negative stereotype, it can become a self-fulfilling prophecy. Not because the stereotype is true, but because you can't stop worrying that you could be an example of it proving. This self-fulfilling prophecy being only a matter of perception can be easily sublimated. Another study by Steele measured the math abilities of men versus women. When the questions were easy, the women and the men performed the same. When they were difficult, the women scores plummeted lower than they did for the male peers. When they ran these tests again with new participants, but this time before handing out the problems, they told their subjects that men and women tended to perform equally on the exam, and the scores actually leveled out. The women performed just as well as the men did. The power of the stereotype, women are bad at math, was nullified. So in social psychology, a version of self-fulfilling prophecy called labeling theory shows how when someone believes you are a certain kind of person, you tend to live up to those expectations. If your teacher thinks you are smart, the teacher treats you like a smart person. You get extra attention and respect. You react with more effort, more drive, positive feedback, and the positive feedback loop leads to the fulfillment of your label. In 1978, an experiment by William Crano and Phyllis Mellon, a set of random students were chosen from an elementary class. The teachers were told these random students had been shown to be possible child geniuses based on an IQ test. The test, of course, didn't exist, and the results were imaginary. But sure enough, the students performed better on homework and exams thanks to more attention from the teachers who believed the prophecy. Think of the stock market. When people predict it will fail, they stop investing and start selling. Others hear about the selling and they sell. People start to try and predict the future, assume everyone is going to sell, and they sell too. Once the media starts reporting, stocks plummet. Research shows if you believe someone is going to be an asshole, you will act hostile, thus causing them to act like an asshole. This same research shows if people think their partner doesn't love them, they will interpret small slights as big hurts. And this will then lead to a feeling of rejection that causes the partner to distance him or herself. That feedback loop will build and build and build until the prophecy is fulfilled. In an experiment performed by Stephen Sherman in 1980, 2 sets of people were asked over the phone to donate 3 hours of time to a cancer drive. One group was simply asked if they would do it. They said yes. 4% showed up. The other group was asked if they would show up if they were to be asked. Most said they would show up. Almost all of them did. The second group had made an assumption about their own personality, and once they had painted a portrait of what kind of person they were, they had to confirm the idea or risk cognitive dissonance. Excuse me. So when it comes to belief, you are not so smart. And the things you think are true will become reality if given enough time to fester. So if you want a better job, a better marriage, a better teacher, a better friend, you have to act as if this thing you want out of the other person is already headed your way. It doesn't guarantee you'll see a change, but it's better than nothing. The point is this: a negative outlook will lead to negative predictions, and you will start to unconsciously manipulate your environment to deliver those predictions. Don't go buying The Secret just yet. It's actually a reference. No, you can't just want something to be true and have it become so, but you can avoid the opposite scenario, which might just be enough to improve your life. So that is Self-Fulfilling Prophecies from the book You Are Not So Smart. Now, to take that a little bit further, what I would like you to do is take a look at my chart here. Okay? What we have is we have our beliefs about ourselves. And our beliefs about ourselves thus influence our actions towards others, or an action in general. This then impacts others' beliefs. Others' beliefs then cause other actions towards us. And it goes again. So if we get good feedback, we feel better. It reinforces how we feel about ourselves, which makes us more influential towards doing more positive actions, which impacts how other people see us, which causes other people to give us positive feedback. Once we get positive feedback, that reinforces our beliefs about ourselves. So this is kind of a simple way to look at it. Now, the idea behind self-fulfilling prophecies is that, like I said, sometimes we hear them in a negative fashion. You know, if you're going into a baseball game and you're not feeling like, I don't actually know much about baseball, but let's say football, okay? The negative side, say it's Bills versus Patriots. Pretty classic. Bills fans aren't very confident. And the Bills players may be a little unconfident because of how well another team plays. But if they go in with that negative mind state, and it depends on their human behavior, how they play the game, how they carry themselves, that's going to influence how well they play in the actual game. The way I want to bring it back to you guys is that I want to change the way we feel. Okay? So let's think about this from a positive perspective. So say, it's Friday night. I was invited to a party by a friend. It doesn't matter what the case is. But there's going to be a whole lot of people that I don't know. So, if I go into this party feeling like I don't make good impressions, I'm not sure if they're going to like me, am I going to be weird, am I just going to sit alone? In most cases, because of your behavior and the thoughts that drive your behavior, you're probably going to come out having people think, he's kind of cold, kind of standoffish, didn't really interact. Now flip the scenario positive. I'm going to this party, going to meet some new people. If I go and say, I make great first impressions, I love talking to people, it should be a good time, then would tend to drive your behavior into being more positive. So you may end up walking out with a couple of new friends. So the idea is taking the negative and putting it positive. Now in your everyday life, this would be like, take a job interview, like we spoke about earlier. If you really like this job, you really want it, as weird as the science is, positive self-talk helps. Because you're coaching yourself. You're saying, I'm good, I deserve this job, I'm going to go in there, I'm going to wow them. If you get that mentality and you get that positive feedback loop in your head, that will push your behavior to be better. So, as self-fulfilling prophecies is always seen in a little negative tone, you can use this to your advantage. And I want to encourage you guys to do that. Because there's going to be a lot of situations that aren't quite comfortable for us. So if it's something brand new that you want to go, then you want to coach yourself up, pump yourself up. You know, say, I am good, I can do this. Going on up.
Lift yourself up.
Exactly. Yeah.
Instead of having low self-esteem.
Yep. And then what you can do with that is the more positive you get, the more positive you act, the more positive outcomes.
There you go.
And then you just go back. And now once you have a positive outcome, you're like, oh, fantastic. You know, I just set a movie date with 2 new friends.
I could do such and such, right?
So the next time you come around,
All the way up.
you're gonna be much more positive and better feeling to go after another task.
Yeah.
And it kind of turns back with the learned helplessness that I spoke about, that if you don't keep that positive mental attitude with you,
Right.
the more you're gonna tend not to try things,
Yeah.
even if you fail. This doesn't say that, okay, if you can be as positive as you want, probably not going to be the president of the United States.
Like they say, just try again.
Granted, I should be, joke, because of the others, but it doesn't guarantee that it happens. So you're not always going to just magically be positive and everything's going to be perfect.
No, don't work like that.
But it's better to look at back and say that I was positive, I felt confident, I really, went in, I gave it my all. It's the best you can do.
Yeah.
But if you keep that mind frame, then at least the next time you try something, or whatever the case may be, you're going to have a stronger mind, stronger attitude going in. But then if your negative happens, you don't want to revert backwards and say, of course I was going to screw this up, you know?
Keep going forward, like you say.
Exactly. And then if you go back, then the negative feelings, the negative actions. So all of it is kind of really giving yourself a pump.
Exactly.
Because you can work for things that you want to happen. And I think you all should. But giving yourself a positive lift, weirdly, unconsciously, unintentionally, actually drives the behavior that you're doing. So, if you take anything from me, please remain positive. I always say PMA. PMA is a acronym, I think it is, for positive mental attitude. Be positive even in front of negatives, because it can drive your behavior and it can drive you to better things that you guys want.
There you go.
I have a write-out of some of the talking points if you'd like, so feel free. If you'd like a copy of those, I can print as many as you need. And I want to thank you guys for giving me the chance to speak and to give you a little bit of information, and I hope that you take it and you enjoy it.
Yes.
And you use it.
Always.
And that's it for me.
Always.
Good evening.
Always.
Thank you.